We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Your host, DJ Hilson, where yet again we get to dive into municipal government today. And my guest is the newly anointed mayor of the city of North Muskegon, Chris Nance. Welcome.
Hi there.
Thanks for being here today. And as I always like to start with my guests, talk a little bit about yourself, please. You know, who you are, what you did, what you're doing now, and where you're at.
Well, my name is Chris Nance. I've been on the job for 1 week. Was sworn in last Monday, December 1, the beginning of the fiscal year for the city of North Muskegon. I'm very excited about it. I grew up in North Muskegon, class of 1980 from North Muskegon
Excellent.
High School. Went on to Michigan State, got undergraduate and graduate degrees there. And then from there, I went on to explore my career that took me throughout the country. But first, I got to talk a little bit about North Muskegon and why it's such a cool place to grow up.
Go ahead.
My dad was a member of the city council. In fact, he was a city council member when our now previous mayor, Sabina Freeman, was first elected. And she has served the community very, very well for many years as both a city council member and as mayor twice. I believe it was for a total of 17 years as mayor, 10 years as a city council member. So I can't talk about being mayor in North Muskegon without hats off to Sabina and her commitment to our wonderful community. My dad will always ask, hey, say hi to Sabina. And Sabina will always say, hey, say hi to your dad. So we are forever a friendly community, and we look forward to seeing each other coming and going, regardless of whether it's a mayor's race. And then my mother was a gift shop owner. In City Hall, I noticed the other day, there's one of these old pictures on the wall from the 70s, and it's my mom's little gift shop called the Strawberry Basket. So we have fond memories growing up in North Muskegon with Dad on city council and my mother with a little gift shop there. And then after high school, I moved on to Michigan State, finished there, and then moved on to Chicago, worked for a couple of big international PR firms there. And then from Chicago, I decided I wanted to do more skiing, moved west to Sacramento, where I skied every single weekend. Also worked for the legislature a couple of times there. And during the first time working there, next thing I knew, with the White House coming and going, I found myself serving as a press office advance representative. And that was a fascinating career opportunity. Everywhere the president or the vice president went, I was there 5 days in advance domestically and 10 days internationally. And with that job, I have fond memories, including being in Helsinki with missions into Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania when the wall was coming down. And then fast forward to another vice president years later, 6 months after 9/11, sitting in Doha, Qatar, watching him negotiate with the emir to attack Iraq. Very, very fascinating career experiences there. But with those jobs, you come and go with elections, just like being mayor of North Muskegon. And so back to working for PR firms and state trade associations. And then later in my career, I found myself working for Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in the state of California. That was a fascinating experience. I was a deputy secretary with Food and Ag and then with business, transportation, and housing. And that similarly took me on some interesting trips to Tokyo on a trade mission, working with commodities, and then to Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, similarly working on trade issues. So career-wise, I've had a lot of really cool experiences.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. You know, it's interesting how, and I don't know if when you were in Michigan State getting your undergrad and master's, if that was sort of the path you were thinking of or just kind of fell into place that way. But it sounds like public service is sort of, you were ingrained with it, not only from your upbringing, but also in your career. Talk a little bit about that. Why was that so important?
Well, I am my mother's son, my father's son as well. Mom had me walking precincts, hanging, door hangers for candidates when I was a kid. And then, of course, watching my dad do his business with the city. My folks have always been very committed to the communities where they've lived. And they left big shoes to fill. And so I want to make my parents proud. My dad's still on this planet. Mom's in heaven watching. So that I've always been inspired by not only the career path I can have the high honor of taking up, but doing what I can for my community.
So what, obviously with all the different things that you did in your career, what brought you back to Michigan, but more importantly, what brought you back to North Muskegon?
Well, we've been looking for an opportunity to come back here for many years. Timing-wise, career-wise, I had work to do, had food to buy, but I'm an older parent with a son now, a junior at North Muskegon High School. We wanted to get him back here before sixth grade, or at least sometime during the sixth grade year, so he could feel like this was home. For me, growing up in North Muskegon was a magical experience. And having lived all around the country, I can look back knowing that indeed was true. And afford that same opportunity for our son is indeed a real treat. And he's thriving as a student, as an athlete with his friends. Some of his friends are grandsons and granddaughters of my parents' friends. That full circle is magical.
That's awesome. So you make a decision at some point here in the very recent history to go from kind of working behind the scenes to now being on the front line as it relates to politics. So what drove your decision to kind of throw your hat in the ring and run for the city of North Muskegon's mayoral race?
Well, I've worked on 4 presidential campaigns, a gubernatorial campaign, countless state legislative campaigns, so it's kind of in my blood. And as I mentioned, my mother had me hanging stuff on doors as a kid. But throughout all of those experiences, my name was never on the ticket. And boy, do things change when your name's on the ticket. And so I thought I'd give it a try. And above all else, I thought I had some really good experience that could be helpful to North Muskegon. And moving back here retired, I thought, there could be more I could do than just riding around on my lawn tractor. I didn't necessarily want to go back to work full time. I wanted to volunteer my time. And, Sabina asked me, why run for mayor? Why not just go for city council? I've always been a go for it kind of person. And I figured, what the heck? And for this last election, frankly, I didn't know she was going to run again until I'd already submitted my papers. I have a lot of respect for Sabina. Don't want to, unsettle the apple cart, so to speak. But at the same time, how's that saying go? The only thing that stays the same or the only thing that changes is change itself, or something like that. And so Sabina had a good run. And so I've had come to conclude it was time for me to put my hat in the ring and go for it.
Well, yeah, as you indicated, when I first ran for office, one of the pieces of advice I received was you find out who your friends really are. when you actually start asking for money and obviously for support. So what are you hoping to, we'll just say what positive changes are you hoping to bring as the new mayor of the city of North Muskegon?
Well, there are a couple of tracks to take here. First of all, I self-funded my campaign. It wasn't expensive, so it wasn't a big deal. We're a small town, I like to say 3 blocks wide, 3 miles long, 4,000 people. So it was more a matter of knocking on doors. And I knocked on just about every door in North Muskegon. And through that, I learned many, many things about what people see as important. And it brought me back to my career path, recalling all the research I'd done in the marketing profession, millions I've spent on research. And what I always found was it was the little things that mattered most. If you're going into a doctor's office, for example, or you're seeing an attorney, you don't second guess their ability to perform their tasks as a doctor or as an attorney. But you might second guess whether they were on time, whether your calls were returned, whether you were billed fairly, things like that. And so with the city of North Muskegon, sure enough, it's very similar. I've been on the job for only a week. I've had calls already about potholes and about snow plowing, and the leaves are already buried under a couple of feet of snow, but I'm sure those conversations will be forthcoming. So to your question, one of the things that I've heard most from people is that they'd like to see people take better care of their property. And that's the case everywhere. And so we need to revisit our ordinances and make sure what we're doing, respectively, is enforceable. And if not, make some changes, because it's not necessarily my agenda. Rather, if I were to have an agenda, it would be to see through what the people of North Muskegon are asking to see done. Secondly, what I hear is our school is our number one asset. It's our crown jewel of our community. We don't have a big business in North Muskegon. If we were a company town, it would be our school. So from a city council perspective, I think we need to make sure we're circling the wagons to make sure that school is the best dang school it can be. And to that end, I'm proposing that we take up joint city council school board meetings a couple times a year. Because, we collect the money for the school. We have the same city school district lines, which is unusual. And so I'm looking forward to that. Our school superintendent is a great guy, a gentleman named Kurt Babcock. His uncle Denny and my mom were friends years ago. And so we're off to a great start, looking forward to working closely with him and his school board. And then lastly, some of the things that I've learned from my years in government. Our master plan is a very, very visionary document. The city's done a darn good job with that, with one exception. We could get 75% funding from the federal government for that. And so what I'm going to look forward to doing is working with our members of Congress. And in North Muskegon, we're blessed. Small city, 4,000 people. We've got 2 members of Congress, not 1, but 2. And moreover, we have a Republican and a Democrat. And as a nonpartisan office holder, I really look forward to that. I think that's a unique opportunity for us. And they're going to want to help us. They need for us to ask. And so with the master plan, that's going to be our first big step. And then with approval from the feds, then ideally that opens up all kinds of other opportunities, all the lanes of local government funding at both the state and federal levels potentially are more easily availed to us because we have that approval in hand.
So, I was at one point in time a resident of North Muskegon, but had to get to a bigger house. But your experience, your governmental experience, has been on a large scale. Federal and a large state, California. Now coming down to a small scale, as you've mentioned a couple of times. What do you see as some of the bigger differences and maybe challenges? Because now people have, not that they wouldn't have had access to you back in the day, but now, you are sort of the face of the city and you're very accessible. What's the difference between the two experiences?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, it's something that I look forward to. Again, I am my mother's son. And I look forward to engaging with people. Our house is situated in a place where we have lots of people walking by. Since we've lived there, it's taken me twice as long to mow the lawn because I'm always eager to stop and talk with people who are walking by. So I suspect that will continue, and it will take me longer to cut the grass now that I'm mayor. But I look forward to those conversations. I think in the city of North Muskegon, forever, what I remember as a kid and is still the case today, we have a very tight-knit community. People look out for each other. So the conversations are friendly. We don't have partisan bickering. If there is, I'm not privy to it. And the council meetings, for example, are peaceful. I do remember observing one where a neighbor was upset about his neighbor's inability to keep their leaves cleared. But with the exception of those types of things, we're a pretty straightforward community. So I look forward to being available to people to talk about these things.
As you look at the other municipalities here in Muskegon County, it's a division between cities and townships, and so you have supervisors and you have mayors. How do you see that the possibility, if you will, of that collaborative and cooperative spirit that I always like to talk about here in the county being used to your advantage in talking to your colleagues across the county?
I don't know that it would be so much as to my advantage. Rather, it would be to the advantage of the region as a whole. We have our county sheriff lives in North Muskegon. We have a county supervisor living in North Muskegon. You've had mayors of other communities on your program here. I look forward to working with them. For example, with our members of Congress, what I learned walking around with members of Congress my entire career is we need to learn how to, if we don't know how to do this already, we need to help them help us. And so what that means is for the city of North Muskegon, for example, to reach out to a member of Congress or one of our state representatives and seek to pull down money at the expense of a neighboring community, I wouldn't want to ever do that. I would want to work with our neighbors to make sure we're all on the same page working together on that. Because ultimately, as I've come to learn in politics, that safety net goes away very quickly if you burn bridges pulling stunts like that. So from where we sit in the city of North Muskegon, we'll see ourselves as partners with everything we do with the partners, our neighbors and beyond. The West Side is a desirable place throughout the state of Michigan to come visit, recreate, and also to live and take up a fascinating career. And so we'll be working together with our neighbors to ensure that continues.
Now, I'll say you have the luxury of walking into a newly renovated city hall, newly renovated police department. How does that, sort of enhance or strengthen the image of the city of North Muskegon? Why were those renovations so very important?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the image of North Muskegon. Throughout my career, I've been in the marketing business. I'm into branding and images and things like that and perceptions. And I think for the city of North Muskegon, based on my professional experience, I think there's a lot we can do there. What I've heard from people is that it's a couple of things. One is they'd like to see better communication about how dollars are spent. As a professional communicator, hopefully that will come a little more easily for me. But, it's not an easy task. And to that end, for example, with the city hall, people could see construction underway, but they were asking a lot of questions about from where the money had come to afford that, and likewise with the police station. But at the same time, people aren't complaining about that money being spent. They're happy to see the city with proud places to do business. They're happy to see the city with newer vehicles that show North Muskegon with pride. So, see, we're blessed with good feelings and good intentions coming from people in North Muskegon. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to make sure they have a good idea for how their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent.
Now, it's funny having lived in this community for a long time, and your perspective of the school being your industry, which is a great perspective. Actually, I really appreciate that. But on the flip side, is there an opportunity? Do you see an opportunity for not a major industrial business to come into North, but are there business opportunities in the city of North Muskegon?
Well, I see myself as the chief sales officer for the city of North Muskegon. When you read the Michigan Municipal League documents, it will talk about how you're the chief executive officer. And in our city, we have a mayor city council model. It's not a strong mayor model. So I'm just one of 7 votes. So I know and have no intention of pretending to be somebody I'm not. But at the same time, as the chief sales officer, I can be in a unique position to help the businesses we already have survive and prosper, but also help be in the hunt for new businesses. Some would argue that we're landlocked, that we're without the real estate needed to attract new business. That may be true, but at the same time, I see that as a nice problem to have. There are businesses that won't be there forever, that have a footprint that may be rather large, and so I've learned throughout my career, we call it looking down the hall and around the corner. And so for businesses like that to be acquainted with what their plans are for the long haul and have ideas for whether they plan to transition out, if they have family to take over the business, or if they're going to sell the store, so to speak, then we can be working with that information and laying down plans accordingly. It goes back to our master plan that I talked about earlier, and that's the City Council has done a fabulous job with that. And so the vision's there. We just need some hustle to sell it.
So if people, certainly if residents of North Muskegon are watching this, or other folks from around Muskegon County, where can they learn more about the city of North Muskegon?
The website is a place to start. We're in the midst of renovating that already 5 days into the job. And what we're envisioning there is it's image related, it's packaging, it's branding. The city of Norton Shores, for example, and with your previous guest, talked about the branding that they've done, the little what do you call it? The takeaway on his sleeve. It's in our nature. I don't know if we'll have something that clever for North Muskegon, but when you look at our website now, it says between the calm lake waters. As a marketing guy, I have to ask, well, what does that mean? And so to qualify that, as a reason or reasons for why people want to come to North Muskegon and do the digital marketing that comes with availing your website that profoundly lists all the businesses and things you can do in North Muskegon. That's a big step for us. So that will be a first place to start for us as a community and for others looking for more information about North Muskegon.
Well, that's, man, I tell you, you have, I see a lot of vision, which is awesome. And again, I have taken away from a lot of these conversations that I've had that it doesn't matter the size of your community and what role you play in that community, but it is sort of the vision and to keep looking forward because I believe that the county as a whole is in such a great place right now, and we all need to be kind of forward thinking and moving forward for everybody to be successful and prosper.
Yeah, and in doing so, I think to the extent possible, be on the same page doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where that cooperation and collaboration come into play. We should not be living in our silos. We should actually be kind of looking at ways that we can help each other along the way.
I totally agree with you.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure. You're welcome.
Thank you for your service. It's been actually a very fascinating conversation. Your sort of your biography, your historical perspective, and coming back to your roots, I think is really, really cool and incredible. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, folks, I hope you got a chance to learn a little bit more about what's happening in the city of North Muskegon and what is on the horizon, if you will. Continue to watch these episodes and really appreciate how local municipalities really shepherd and use the servants that they have in order to make sure that you as citizens get to live well and prosper in the communities that you get to enjoy. As always, this program does not happen without the ingenuity of one Mike Vogus.